one of your fund captures the Contra fund, if I'm right.
The Contra fund is doing extremely well. Retail client base has grown from 2 lakh investors to now 13 lakhs.
Oh, sixfold.
It's almost been a six-fold rise.
Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are confused. Sometimes they are overwhelmed. Sometimes they think that they missed the bus.
Last 5 years in India have been extremely good for us.
Namaste viewers. Invesco is a global independent investment management firm based out of Atlanta, USA. It is a listed firm with market capitalization of more than $13 billion, which is approximately like 90,000 crores in India. So Invesco manages more than $1.3 trillion of assets on behalf of its clients world over. And it has presence in more than 26 countries, and it serves clients in about 120 countries. That is a great thing, generally. So they are into this business and they are there for quite long. And in India, Invesco manages more than 48,000 crores of assets across mutual funds, PMS, and advisory, etc. And they also do have a wide spectrum of products from equity to debt to gold and international equities. And today we have with us Mr. Saurabh Nanavati, who is the CEO of Invesco India. And he has been with the firm since inception. Being the CEO, he oversees all functions, including strategy, investments, operations, and sales in India. And earlier to this, he was with HDFC Standard Life as a chief investment officer. And prior to that, with Daesh Mutual Fund. He's basically an electronics engineer. And then he has done his MBA from Jamanal Bajaj Institute of Management. He is also on the board of AMFI, the Association of Mutual Funds in India, and also the MF Utilities, Mutual Fund Utilities website, which collaborates from all the fund houses for online transaction, etc. So now, welcome, Mr. Saurabh Nanavati. Glad to be interacting with you. And with stock markets rising, many of our investors have many questions in their mind. Sometimes they are confused. Sometimes they are overwhelmed. Sometimes they think that they missed the bus. Anyway, etc. So, Saurabh, hope you and your team members are doing well in this pandemic time. And, while on the ground, people are worried that the pandemic has shattered many lives, etc., etc. But the stock markets are not telling that story. It's the other way around, and they are rising, going up and up. Can you throw us some light on the markets and its outlook, whatever you want to share with us?
Thank you, Mr. Chokalingam, and my greetings to all your viewers and your clients. Thank you for having me here. It's been extremely tough for the entire industry, but I yet think that the mutual fund industry has handled itself extremely well. The whole shift to digital has been pretty seamless, and I'm sure clients are seeing the benefits of an industry which has adopted digital well. And the transparency in the products. I agree with you on the ground level impact. I think the impact has been severe, and especially for India, the second wave and the number of cases. And I think at this point of time, virtually each and every one of us have somebody near and dear to us who has got affected and who has been through this pain. That was not the case in the first wave, actually. But this time around, it has been extremely severe. So my first request to all the viewers will be just take care of yourself. And we should not make the same mistakes which we made after the first wave. We should be careful and continue to be careful for the next 1 year till this whole vaccination program is not completed. So that's the first piece of advice I would say. Now, to your question on this whole dilemma that on one side businesses affected, but the stock markets have been rising. Uh, I think, look, if we go back a year back, and if you, I think, go back to, I think, somewhere around 23rd of March in the year 2020, that's when the stock market touched a low. The Nifty was at 7,700 at that point of time. Now, at that point of time, we did not know how the central banks will react, right? So in the case of this pandemic, everything had come to a halt, had come to a stop.
Mhm.
And if the central banks would not intervene, then definitely markets were headed down. But at that point of time, globally, all the central banks started acting, and the end result of that is that I think in the last 15 months, close to $6 to $7 trillion have been sort of pumped in the markets by central banks across the world. It
Mhm.
also includes India. But the biggest contributors have been the US and the developed markets. Now, that's a serious chunk of money which we are talking about. And the minute all those announcements came through, it sort of provided a floor to the market that look, it cannot go down from these levels, and all this additional money will help in supporting the markets, and people will start taking that additional risk to invest in even emerging markets and riskier asset classes like equities. So I think that announcement by central banks was a very important announcement. Otherwise, you would have seen the markets correcting, and perhaps could have corrected even more at that point of time. Now, once that announcement has been made, we then need to start looking at the markets very, very differently. So let me give you a perspective from that side. So if you go back 10 years, in the year 2010, 2008, after the global financial crisis, you had a number of asset classes. So you could invest in a bank fixed deposit, which would earn you 8-9%. You could invest in a debt instrument, which would earn you 8-9%. You could invest in equity markets, which would perhaps give you more than that because of the additional risk you're taking. And you also had gold and property, which were doing extremely well. So in 2008, property markets were booming, right, at that point of time. You come and you now stand in today's situation for an investor. The situation is very, very different, because he will no longer get in excess of 5%, neither in a way in bank fixed deposits nor in debt. After tax, your returns may be just 3-4%. Property markets are not performing for the past few years, at least in the metro cities. Maybe in the smaller cities, they have performed because of specific issues or specific development taking place. But generally, the property markets have not performed for the last 5-6 years. And therefore, if I am an investor, the only asset class which can perhaps now give me a double-digit return is equity. And that's precisely the reason why what we have seen in this last 1 year is, after touching that low of 7,700, central banks have come and put a backstop in terms of a floor to the market on the downside. And in the absence of no other asset class giving you anything close to a double-digit return, people have migrated and have started investing aggressively in equity markets. So what I basically I'm seeing at this point of time is the third player has emerged. Which is the third player. If you go back 10 years back, the dominant player was FIIs. We were completely dependent on FII flows. The last 6 years, mutual funds have been contributing extremely well. So domestic investors have invested through mutual funds in the markets. So mutual fund size has also grown. And now the retail investors have come in the market. So that third leg also is now coming, who are investing directly in the markets themselves. And because of the flow, because of sort of no other optionality in other asset classes, I think equity market has performed well, and it has reached that point where we are 100% above those lows at this point of time.
True, true. I mean, now say like many people were expecting, okay, second wave has come, and again there is going to be 30%, 40% drop. I will wait and I will buy whatever. Everyone was expecting, and just being on the sidelines. Now people are worried. Market is going up and up. Where it is, some newspapers are saying it's Nifty is reaching 17,500, another 10-15% from here. So, do you think, what I mean, from a fundamental perspective, do you think is the market overvalued or inflated, or should we be worried? Should the investors be worried at this point of time? Just what is your general thought on this?
So look, if you're going to take a short-term view, anything under say 1 to 2 years, I wouldn't want to comment on that. If you are basically going to take a 5-year view, I think market valuations are fair at this point of time. I wouldn't say that they are inflated, nor are they cheap.
Okay.
So clearly, I agree with you. When the second wave started and the severity of that, you would have expected that markets would correct. And it did correct, but what's happening at this point of time, that any 4-5% correction in the market and it is being bought into. And when it is getting bought into, it is getting bought into so meaningfully that it goes up again and it touches a new high. So I think, look, the second wave was a concern, but if you look at the corporate results and the way they have carried out themselves, especially for the quarter ended March, I think they have learned how to operate in a COVID situation also. Yes, the second wave will affect earnings for this year because one quarter in a way has got slightly washed out. But it's more a deferral of that quarter than anything else, that it will come back after that. And therefore people are yet basically positive on the market from a perspective that if things come back to normalcy in the next 6 months, then just from an attractiveness perspective, the Indian markets are they are fairly valued. I wouldn't say they are stretched at this point of time yet.
Okay, good. So even someone enters with a long-term view, he won't get cheated, or he won't get, in the sense not cheated, he won't get demoralized. No, I got lesser.
There is a wall of money waiting, Mr. Chokalingam. I have seen so many clients trying to time this market. They have sold at 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, and they have all been building up their cash positions, trying to time that 10-20% correction. It never happens. If you have so many investors on the other side who are waiting in cash, then this market will not come down. So that's what I've learned over the years.
True. So like on the other side, let us take the, I am mainly representing retail investors. So from their perspective, is it good to go with, kind of your, say like you have a basket of products, you have full equity product, you have a hybrid dynamic equity product, you have debt, etc., gold, all those things. But in generally, say like if of course SIP, we say that okay, you enter anytime, doesn't matter, because if you are there for long term, it's going to do good. Now, generally the emotion of retail investors, what they do is when they see their portfolio picking up the percentage CAGR and absolute return, the more confidence they get. And then they call the distributors or whomever, advisors, whatever. Can I invest additionally? Can I invest in small cap? Can I invest in large cap? So at this point of time, generally as a fund house, what would be suggesting to your distributors or unit holders or whatever, generally kind of anything to do with dynamic asset allocation, or still comfortable with from a bulk perspective, or equity, full equity is okay, funds?
So the way I would put it across, Mr. Chokalingam, is if you are a long-term investor, first go to your advisor and do your asset allocation and stick to it. Over a 5 and 10-year period, that is the most important aspect which will bring you your desired results. So don't try and time any sector or the market. Do your asset allocation correctly. Sit with your distributor or your advisor and take a look at your whole portfolio, what you want to achieve, and go about it that way. If I have to just look at it tactically at this point of time,
Mhm.
uh, last year, for example, I was basically pretty confident of the mid and small cap sectors because relatively the large cap had gone up and the mid and small cap indices, had not performed as much as desired.
Mhm.
Uh, I think they have caught up in the last few months, especially the last 6 months. They have had a field run. So I'm very indifferent to large cap, mid cap, small cap. I think at this point of time, all three of them have had their run up, and they are all fairly valued. And there's opportunity in each of these buckets. Also, tactically, at this point of time, I think value is something which I prefer over growth. Growth stocks have had a field run for the last 6-7 years.
Mhm.
Value stocks have been picking up only in the last 4-5 months.
Mhm.
So if tactically I want to play safe, on one side I'm worried about markets have touched new highs. Then perhaps you could get into value funds
Mhm.
because they would traditionally be buying stocks which are lower than their longer term averages. So value as a theme, I think even globally has played out in the last 6-7 months after almost a 6-7 year period of underperformance. Uh, yeah, from a theme perspective, I would prefer value over growth. Whether it's large cap, mid cap, small cap, I think all of them have performed well over the last 2-3 years. And now I'm indifferent. I would focus far more on stock picking in each of these buckets than be focused on one of these segments.
Okay, okay, that is on a diversified product.
Yes.
And on a, from a theme perspective, will infrastructure theme after 13-14 years, will it start performing?
I think so. I think so at this point of time. So I think, look, the general consensus which we feel, we have a 13-member equity team, and we basically just try and keep discussing, at the macro level, and then basically get into individual stocks.
Mhm.
So I think at this point of time, post this second wave hitting us, I think the face-to-face sort of focused industries will need to take a break at this point of time. They had run up extremely well, so all the consumption-related stocks had done extremely well, and they have given you the returns, but I think that is the part of the business which has got impacted the most in the second wave.
Mhm.
People have sort of put off their sort of consumption spend for the time being. They are more focused in terms of keeping money in the bank or keeping money for their health requirements. It's just that safety aspect which is coming in place. So if the face-to-face industries or the consumption-led industries have taken a back seat, I think the opportunities are in the traditional sectors like manufacturing, industrials, the infrastructure stocks, like you rightly mentioned, global commodity stocks, the cyclical stocks. We feel that those will be perhaps just tactically better plays for the next 6 to 12 months. And it is adequately reflected in our portfolios at this point of time. As fund managers, we have made that change.
Good, good, good. And also, I think from the earlier, just before to this, we were talking about value stocks. So I think one of your fund captures the Contra fund, if I'm right.
The Contra fund is doing extremely well. We are almost 7,000 crores plus in that fund. And if you look at the contra fund, which is based on the value theme, what we try and tell the investor is don't look at year-on-year returns or 5-year or 10-year returns. Look at any 3-year rolling period. And if you look at any 3-year rolling period, the contra fund has not disappointed any investor. It has done extremely well. And the investors have made a lot of money in any 3-year period if you take it over the last 12 years since it's been in existence.
Good. Very good. And generally, on a little different from the topic that we discussed on your business side, say like Invesco India, because globally you are a very large asset management company. Invesco India, in India, how would you like to grow? You would like to do your business aggressively or as usual? Because India is a high growth market. And right now, I think overall you are managing around 48,000 crores plus, and mutual funds 36,000 crores approximately, if I'm right. And within that, equity alone is like 20,000 crores, something like that. So in India, how you are positioning, Invesco, and how would you like to take it forward?
So thank you for that introduction earlier, Mr. Jokalingam. Invesco's only business in the world is asset management. We are not a bank. We are not an insurance company. We are only focused on asset management, and our only objective is basically to manage clients' money and give them a good experience while we manage their money. In India, we have been in this business now for the last 12 years. Earlier, we were Religare Asset Management, and then Invesco picked up a 49% stake first in 2013, and in 2016 they picked up the 100% stake. But the team has remained the same, and our philosophy has remained the same. On the investing side, we are a team-based approach. We are not staff and manager driven. So we have had very large teams right from day one. Even when we had 0 assets, we had a team of 11 people in equities. And even today, we have 13 people in equities. So 3 fund managers, 2 dealers, and the remaining are all analysts. Okay. I think the core strength, which we believe always in this business is fund management. And if you can generate the alpha, I think investors will like it and will come to you. But more importantly, you need to be able to generate that alpha consistently. You should not be having that one great year out of 5 years. Because if that happens, people see that performance come in, and then the next 4 years is a bad experience. What we try and do is we have tried to keep our process in the way that consistent alpha is generated. Last 5 years in India have been extremely good for us. If I can give you some statistics, my retail client base has grown from 2 lakh investors to now 13 lakhs.
Oh, 6-fold.
It's almost been a 6-fold rise. Okay. Our SIP book, which was 5 crores, has grown to over 200 crores now per month.
Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah, and we have almost 6 lakh investors with us in our SIPs. So we have been very focused on growing the retail business. Retail and equity assets now contribute to 55% of our AUM. So we are actually at this point of time almost touching 40,000 crores in domestic assets, and equity assets are 22,000 crores of that. So thanks to advisors like yourself, we have had an extremely good run. And I hope whoever has invested with us over the years has had a good experience. What I can confidently say is if you look at any of our funds, whether it is value, growth, or mid cap, small cap, over a 3, 5, 10-year period, most of our funds do feature in the top quartile at this point of time. And it's all about that consistency which we speak of. There's the second element of our business, where we have launched India dedicated funds all across the world. We collect money from foreign investors, and then we manage it. That business has also grown well for us. Currently, we are at close to 10,000 crores in assets there. And the last piece is basically Indian investors investing in our global funds.
Mhm.
So we've had some global offerings recently, and we have had very good experience at this point of time. We launched our Global Consumer Trends Fund in December. The fund has got close to around 30,000 investors right now, and it's close to 700 crores. And every day I see money coming in into that fund. So I think it's a diversified product base which we have. We will try and focus on excelling in fund management, and we will leave it to good partners like yourself to meet the client and explain to client why this product meets their risk profile. So our focus is on excelling in fund management and giving good service to partners like yourself or to our direct clients.
Okay, okay, good. That's good. That's good.